Hello, future ASB students and parents. Thanks so much for watching this screencast. The purpose is just to keep you up to date with all of the ASB rules and procedures and policies as they pertain to academic and behavioral concerns. And I just want to make sure that you understand fully what you're signing when you sign and return the student and parent contract for the 2018-2019 school year. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The ASB program has two advisors, myself and Mr. Frakes. Mr. Frakes primarily teaches 7th grade ELA, so a lot of our incoming 7th grade students will actually have him as their language arts teacher. Mr. Frakes is responsible for supervising all of our male students when we're gone on retreat, and he's a pretty awesome all-around guy to have at all of our events. He also is in charge of a lot of our paperwork, so we appreciate Mr. Frakes. Our ASB class consists of 48 students. We have 12 6th grade, 20 7th grade, and 16 8th grade students for the next academic year. This is a fairly typical ratio of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. In ASB, we believe that leadership is action, not position, which means we expect a lot out of our ASB students in terms of their responsibilities, and we expect to prove daily that we are leaders on campus, not just because we're in the class, but by allowing our actions to speak louder than our words. So with that, communication is super important. We ask students to sign up for a Remind 101 text messaging account. And the Remind code for students, they would text to the number 81010, and the message they would put with no spaces at JWMS ASB 19. And this will enable them to receive all of our important text message communications. So much of students' reminders goes through this particular technology tool that it's really important students are receiving these messages. If you have an incoming 6th grade student who does not yet have their own cell phone, then please sign up for this account as the parent, because you need access both to the student and parent texts on behalf of your child if they don't have a cell phone. For parents, this would be the account that receives fewer text messages than the student account, but it contains lots of relevant details regarding fundraising, events, dates, times, pickups, when to drop off meals for students when they're working an entire day after school into the evening. It's a lot of good information, and again, less texts for parents than for students, but it is important that students and parents subscribe. ASB events. We have so many different programs and events that we're responsible for, and we've been really proud of the way our program has grown over the last several years. So just to name a few of the events, we are in charge of dances, fundraisers, sporting events. We do put on a talent show, and we have outdoor movie nights, which we've referred to as Bighorn Platinum Club in the past. We have BTV and Digicom films that we produce, and we are also responsible for spirit events at lunchtimes, spirit weeks, and different inclusive campaigns that we plan around campus to improve campus culture. So we wear a lot of hats in ASB, and we're responsible for a lot of different things. So given that, all of our dates are published ahead of time on packwoman.com, PACKWOMAN.com. You can click on the ASB calendar tab or the ASB tab for all pertinent information, and you can check back throughout the year as new dates are added or dates are altered. Now, because we do depend on event production for the large part of what we do on campus, missing an event is kind of a big deal. Students are expected to be at all events that are ASB related, unless the event is publicized as optional. To be honest, we don't have very many optional events throughout the year. This is a pretty involved program for students to be a part of. So with that, we have some rules. If your student is going to miss an event, they need to talk to me, Mrs. Pack, about 2 weeks in advance. So I should not find out the day before an event or the day of an event that a student will be unable to make it, barring some major family emergency. Alternative assignments may be given for grade redemption, but that's entirely at my discretion. And to be honest, it has to do with how many events students have missed and how much time they are giving in advance in terms of having appropriate levels of notice if a student is not going to be able to make it. In ASB, we have many different departments. So we function a lot like a business. We have students who are responsible for the event planning itself and for the decorating. That's the creative department. We also have students who are responsible for school spirit, for producing the news, for advertising for all of our events. And so when you look at this diagram, the officers are really at the head of the organization, and all of these other departments function under those officers. You'll notice that as the teacher, I'm not listed on this diagram because this is a student-run organization. So we want kids to be the ones making the decisions and taking the responsibility for events. My role is primarily as a facilitator and to intervene as necessary, but I try not to do that too much. So as we move on, we have very strict academic expectations for students. We consider our primary job in ASB to be role models around campus, so we require a GPA of 3.0 or above, all passing grades, C or better, with no D or F grades. So here's the part where sometimes new students get confused. They'll see the second rule that says you can have a C or higher in all your classes, but if you have C's in all of your classes, or even in like 2 or 3 classes and then you have some B's in there, you're not going to make the GPA requirement of the overall 3.0 or above. So for incoming 6th graders, the most important thing that you can do is learn how to calculate your GPA. Any of the experienced ASB students would be able to help you with that. And then know that I check actually once a month. So I run a progress report check on my teacher gradebook to be able to check in on your teachers and your classes. And poor grades would actually result in something we call academic probation. That's where you have a letter home to document that you are not maintaining academic expectations, and frequently you're removed from class for a duration of 2 weeks to be placed with a teacher in another classroom where you can use the time as study hall. So continued poor grades, which would be kind of like 1 academic probation, might be understandable, but more than that, we start talking about ASB removal. So remembering that our primary job is as role models, we want to make sure that we are setting a high academic standard. A new rule this year has to do with SBAC testing. Because of next year's schedule and the way spring break falls, we actually will be SBAC testing right up until we leave for retreat. So our new rule this year is that all SBAC testing must be completed before your student will be allowed to go on retreat. And if a student remains behind to do any makeup testing and they want to join retreat late, parents are then responsible for transportation to the retreat campground. No retreat monies will be refunded if students opt to stay home from retreat as a result of SBAC testing. So this is really a non-negotiable as far as Mr. Sauer is concerned, and so we want to respect his policy, and we recognize that retreat is a privilege, not a right. And so to that end, we will do our best individually to obey his expectations in that area. In terms of behavior, we also have a lot of policies. So students must stay off the exclusion list. They can't get OSS or expulsion or ISS. If any of those things result, there is the possibility of removal from the ASB program, which is again largely at the discretion of the advisors, which is myself and Mr. Frakes. If we have repeated complaints about students from their teachers, that would also be grounds for removal, or at the very least, behavioral probation. Other behavioral expectations has to do with being a positive example for everyone on campus. We also have a no drama policy because there's so many of us in ASB and we spend so much time together. We want everyone to treat each other the way they want to be treated. More than one incident of drama in the ASB class, which would distract from work and take away from the overall feeling of camaraderie and bonding that we have in the class, more than one incident of that could result in removal from the ASB program at the discretion of the ASB advisors. So the best idea is just to treat each other with the golden rule and try to get along with everyone. ASB Retreat is super, super fun, and it is our favorite event by far out of the entire school year. We go up into the mountains for 3 days and 2 nights and stay at a camp in Angeles Oaks, California. So in order to be able to take 48 kids and 2 advisors on retreat, we do have a certain amount of fundraising that is required. So the first area of fundraising comes in ASB independent donations. This means students keep track of donations. They would donate $10 a month toward the cost of their retreat. They'll make those monthly payments from August through May, and then that actually results in a total of $100 that is independently donated per student. Payments are due the first Friday of each month, although we do have some flexibility with that depending on your family situation. And the total balance that's due for retreat per student should be paid and donated through May 1st, 2019. Deposit slips look kind of like this, so students pick up one each month from our treasurer and make their monthly deposits. We encourage families to use this as an opportunity for students to earn the money themselves so that their retreat experience means more. Also, it is important to be aware that the ASB program is contingent on your student's academic and behavioral choices. So if a student is removed from ASB for any reason, because we purchased their spots at retreat in advance, all of the retreat money would be forfeit if your student is removed from the program. So any payments that they've already put into the system to reserve their place at retreat, that would actually just stay in our bank account because we have already signed a contract on behalf of your student to have a spot at retreat. Other ASB fundraising comes from the sale of concessions on campus. That pays for the other half of students' retreat funds. Students also sell desert sampler tickets, and that pays for transportation to retreat. And then students donate, of course, the half of their retreat funds independently. We have other school fundraising opportunities, but those are not required. They're just encouraged. That would be the fall fundraiser, the fall festival, and the spring fundraiser. The fall festival is a required event. We do run all of the events, but in terms of helping to fundraise specifically for that, that's the part that is optional. So there's a few mandatory dates that are super important. We want to make sure that your student is present to be able to engage in all the orientation activities. So this slide would be one that you want to take notes on. ASB orientation and training is going to be Friday, August 3rd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Make sure your student brings a lunch, bring a water bottle, and we'll be meeting in Portable 902. So the ASB classroom will be located in 902 next year, and you need to make sure that's where your student reports for their ASB orientation. The first day of school is August 8th, so make sure that that is on your calendars as well. If you have any questions, please email jpack@psusd.us. I'm always happy to clarify anything that you've heard in this video. And thanks so much for applying for ASB, new students. And families, thank you for supporting your child's desire to be a part of one of the most rigorous programs here on campus. Since you've reached the end of this video, all that's left is for you to sign and return your student and parent contract. That outlines all the expectations that we covered in this video, and all you have to do is sign it and then take a picture or scan it with your phone and then email it back to jpack@psusd.us. So thanks again so much for being a part of the JWMS ASB program. We're always here for you, and our motto is to serve, lead, and inspire. So I look forward to working with you and your student. Thank you.